we'd been together for a couple of days at that point, and they were all like cheering for me, and it was twisted and demented, and we felt like afterward we were all like united, and that's so rare.
Batman fans might be surprised at how little he's even referenced in the show. Were there any kind of conversations about, like, we're not going to make this, he's not going to be a guest star on this thing?
That was the conversation.
That was the conversation. Don't say the word Batman.
Benton's got his own movie. He's fine. You don't need him.
Yeah, the conversation was opened as a fact, a statement of fact. No, I knew from the start that he wasn't going to be in, or Robert wasn't going to appear. And I think it was that. I think it was a case of just, them wanting not to lean on that. I think there was an understanding that at the end of the Batman film that Bruce Wayne was at as yet undeclared and unshared kind of turning point. Personally himself, and I mean that I haven't read the second film. I think Matt's still working on part 2, but after the rescue at the garden and the voiceover at the end, you could see that emotionally and psychologically he was going to not do a course correct, but there was going to be some change in his life. I think this story takes place over 5 or 6 weeks, so it seemed to make sense to the creatives, to Matt and to Lauren, that he didn't need to appear in this, and they wanted it just to be able to. And it's a very different side of Gotham as well. Not that that Batman doesn't get his hands dirty in the shadows, of course, but it's a very, very different part of Gotham that I've never seen before. It's really the underbelly of the city, and it's down in the gutter, What did you learn about Oz and how to play him by literally living in his skin for 8 episodes? That's a lot more time than on the movie. Yeah, I mean, you only learn what the writers teach you, They're kind of everything for us, I think, if I can speak for us all. I learned on the first film what Matt shared with me through his writing and through the conversations that we had, and then I learned through this 8 hours of show for HBO who Oz was through. Actually, you learn your character, of course, who your character is through the writing, and then as an extension of that, you learn who your character is through how they interact with the people in the story that you're creating together. So I very much learned who Oz was. Fundamentally, maybe through my relationship with Dee Dee's character, who plays Oz's ma, and then subsequently as well through Kristin's work as Sophia and Rhenzy's as well as Vic, All
right. Well, actually, speaking of Sofia Falcone, she has had men basically controlling her life, her whole life, whether it's her father, Carmine Falcone, the other mobsters in the crime family, and then the doctors at Arkham. So can you tell us how in this story she's standing up against all of that and kind of getting her own agency and power?
Well, I think like one of the coolest parts of what Lauren did with her is that she's driven so mad that she becomes the thing that everyone has accused her of being. And I thought that was just like, an incredible thing to get to play. And I think even though her actions are maybe like questionable, I obviously understand them, and but
the role seems fair.
It's incredible to see someone sort of take the gloves off and be free in a way, even though she's not fully free. But to just like, we've all been hurt at a point in our lives and have wanted to like make other people feel that. I think that's like why Batman is so, I was going to use the word relatable, and then I was going to bang my head into this glass. But like, I think that's what's so intriguing about this world. And so, yeah, I don't know if I answered your question.
No, but in the no, you did.
Okay. And a projection of pain outwards, which is what you were saying as well. All these characters being broken, they all kind of overshoot the mark, project their pain out into the world. Totally. Like none of them have the opportunity or the wherewithal to actually deal with them themselves. They don't have the support. I mean, even the most beautiful relationship in Oz is like beautiful. Serious.
Yeah, correct. That's the right word.
This one here, and it's toxic to its core.
Yeah.
No, misunderstood,
Well, I mean, each of your characters are, they're a product of the streets to some degree. And I was curious then about Frances Cobb, sort of, she's endured a tough life and she's ailing now, but she still has ambitions. Can you tell us a little bit about what she really wants at this point in her life when we meet her on the show?
When we meet her on the show. I feel like it's a case of I don't know. Watch out for the bookkeeper. Like she took care of the books. She was the numbers behind a lot of the criminal activity in her neighborhood. She came up doing that and sort of sent her boy in when he was little to work in that world. And there's a way in which I feel like the whole show is a lot about those people who get disregarded, the people whose names you don't know, who come in and clean the room, the people who deliver the papers that then you send over to your attorney. That all those people. That's what this is about. So this is about her boy, who was the most invisible one, the one with the troubled leg, the one who was a little. Maybe not as smart, and actually he was smarter than everybody. She sort of, I feel like she almost sent him in like a stealth bomber into the world where she had been disregarded her whole life, and to lift us up. And Lauren and I would talk a lot about real estate, like her wishes for a better place to live. We talk a lot about money. We talk a lot about style, but the underneath of all of that is power. The underneath of all of that is to stop being the victim, to stop being invisible, to stop being available for humiliation. And I feel like Francis and Oz both, but maybe all the characters, the thing they hate the most is being humiliated. And she teaches him in a funny way how to handle humiliation and let it be his weapon. So if he can swallow it, if he can hold it for long enough, if he can keep himself from using his temper, if he can keep himself from revealing his power, if he can hold on, then he can just like keep on moving. So she's like, and that to me, that it's what I feel like the show is very feminine. Like that's a thing that a woman can teach a man. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, you have no power in that situation. You want to start hitting people. You want to start throwing stuff. Be cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Just be cool. Just let them think you're the driver. Yeah. Just let them keep talking. Be so invisible that they tell you the whole. And he just like takes all that power and just like strap me.
And I would say one of the most rewarding aspects as a viewer watching your character Victor is finding out that he's not who you think he is. From how he's introduced to what we discover about him, and especially he is very much a product of what happens at the end of the Batman. Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about the relationship he has with Oz? What does he see in Oz? Initially, he's kind of scary, but what does he come to see? And then what does Oz come to see in this kid? So let's actually start with you, Rhenzy.
Yeah, I think, of course, at the beginning, it's this survival instinct thing. It's just like get to the next day, get to the next breath, get to the next, minute. But it grows. It grows because there's the real opportunity that Victor has with Oz. It's unlike anything he's ever really seen before, and it's a world that he's never gotten to experience, and it's opportunities that he's never gotten to have available to him. So all of a sudden, the world kind of opens up, and it's not just this thing. It's not just what's laid out in front of him is going to be this dirt path. Now he's got a real road to something that's bigger than what he's experienced his entire life, than what it's been, than what his family's had. And so I think there's an allure to that, and there's also. He's also battling with his morality about, is this the right thing to do? I'm a good person, think I am, but then I'm being put in circumstances to do bad things. Does that make me a bad person? Who am I? How would the people that I love think about me? How would they feel about me? And so he's battling a lot with these things. But at the end of the day, you got to make a decision. And I think in a lot of worlds, it's like Victor, and a lot of times I think Victor, the human being that he is, would make a decision to maybe step away from this kind of world. And I think we're following in one of the worlds where he does do that, where he does commit to that kind of life, and then we get to see kind of how that plays out.
Well, he does strike me as the most kind of honest and conscience-stricken of all the characters in the thing, or at least
not a very high bar, but yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, damn, Rhenzy.
What does Oz see in this kid? Must be some bit of a mirror in a way to him.
No, I don't think a mirror. I think just the fact that he feels an instant sense of power for obvious reasons, and he doesn't have many people that look up to him as, and it's very clear that this will be someone that does, even if it is the result of having a muzzle pointed to his head. So I think he sees an opportunity. Yeah, absolutely. I think even the stutter would turn Oz on as a sign of weakness and vulnerability, and also as a kind of a sense of simpatico between somebody who's on the outside because of something that's physical, that's beyond their control, as Oz had with his bum leg. So yeah, just somebody that he can boss around and that he can use, and maybe as well beneath it all there's a sense of loneliness. I think Oz is a fairly lonely character, not that he would even realise that or have any, but he at his core he's somebody that, just like many, is looking for love in all the wrong places. Over there in the red velvet shirt.
Well, actually, there's a line in a different DC project, Blue Beetle, where George Lopez's character kind of half jokingly says, "Batman's a fascist." What do these regular day citizens think of this guy? Was that ever kind of discussed, or you ever kind of mull that over?
Not necessarily a conversation that I had with Lauren or with anybody, but I mean, I definitely thought about stuff as it pertained to the Riddler, because that changed his entire life, anything that the events of that. Disdain and hate and powerlessness, again, about that situation and about how that all happened and the way it went down. And so I guess I haven't even given it that much thought, because again, Batman was it's so interesting that a lot of the discourse right now is about, is the Batman going to, or at least it was for a few weeks, is the Batman going to be in it? Is he going to be in it? Oh my God, maybe he's going to make a little scene. And to me, it never even dawned on me that he wouldn't make an appearance on our show. I guess I was just so enamored with what was going on the page that I was so focused on that. I feel like, I guess if I'm thinking about it now, in a way, I guess he'd be almost for Batman. I mean, wouldn't he? Because he got the Riddler, and the Riddler's the one that sort of set up all this tragedy in his life anyways. So this is the guy that got him. There'd be a little bit of that in it. I don't know. That's off the top of my head now, just thinking about it. I'd have to do it deeper and think about, right, he's not necessarily in Crown Point saving people, but he's also putting fear in people's hearts. So that's kind of that whole opening sequence, is that he doesn't have to be there. Just the fear of him.
That's right.
The idea of him is enough to sort of stop things from happening. I don't know. I guess the
thing Oz never asked you what you thought of Batman. Batman fanboy over there.
One episode series.
Yeah, totally.
A 15-minute show.
Finding someone else with a stutter now.
You don't speak about Batman in our house. We don't. The word Batman does not cross our lips.
And Sofia Falcone, what was she? I mean, she had a very complicated relationship with her father, to say the least. I would assume she's not, shedding any tears over, he walked him right out. And
I don't think so at all.
Rats.
But I also think that, like,
she just doesn't know where to send the flowers.
Exactly. I was going to say, she did her a favor. And I also think that's one of the things I really love about Batman, is that there's like not that big of a difference between him and his villains.
Yeah.
Maybe like the purpose is different. The ultimate goal is different. If he's the
bank account is different.
The bank account is different, but they're both like, they're all sort of putting on these like performances to right a wrong.
Yeah.
They just have different ideas of what's wrong.
Right.
So like, he's also putting on a cape and like going out and looking for people.
Yeah.
And I've always found that really, really fascinating, and and interesting and real. And I think that, like, so I don't know how she would react. She'd probably, like, have a giggle, maybe over what he was wearing. And then she'd probably, like, recognize something before she, tried to kill him.
Well, in the comics, your character, Sofia Falcone, is revealed to be the serial killer, the Hangman.
Yeah.
How much of that comic is actually kind of adapted for the show? I know you have to dance around spoilers, but, like, kind of how much of that version of Sofia is in your version? Like, do you get to almost the costumed villain point?
Right. I mean, I had a lot of discussions with Lauren early on about how much I should be looking at the comics. And, I sort of ultimately chose to sort of stay away from that and focus on what was on the page. But yeah, I mean, I think she does get to a place where she becomes like this full other creature that maybe was always in there somewhere. And when she's driven to this level of madness, like, I do think she like blossoms into something that is, like, I think incredible, even though her actions are not great. So I think she does become, like, I think she does become that by the end. And even all of her, like, accoutrements, like her what she's wearing.
It's a supervillain makeover.
Yeah.
That's
and it's like, and I think, and it's like fabulous. But it is also like her version of a cape. It's just, they have different ideas of justice.
Right.
There were so many days when I got to be on set with you where you would just be like wearing some other fab, and you would come in, if you had such glee in your heart.
I was like a kid in a candy store.
The clothes.
Oh my God, a fur coat and a gun?
They were so like, are you kidding me? It was like watching somebody, but it was like watching you actually blossom.
Yeah.
And you became this, like, I love terrifying, horrible butterfly.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah.
And it happened like over the time of shooting it, more and more.
Yeah.
You were more and more like, with strange happiness.
Yeah, it was glee.
Yeah, it was glee. It was
Whatever
really
that
cool.
may mean.
The fourth episode is really a transformative one for you, the kind of Arkham backstory one. But it also looked like was it a particularly emotionally or physically kind of grueling episode? Because, I mean, your character goes through the ringer in that one.
I mean, for sure, yes, but that's like thrilling. Yeah, I mean,
That's the
Yeah,
work.
that's like what you pinch yourself over. Even if maybe there are intense days, that's also what I'm always like wishing for and hoping for,
Right.
because it's part of it and it's thrilling. And I mean, I read that episode and truly couldn't believe what I was being given the opportunity to do. And, then our director of that episode, Helen Shaver, who's out of this world, she sort of cultivated this energy on set where it felt like all those scenes in Arkham, it felt like a play. Like every single background artist had their own story. And she sat with us.
It
doesn't always happen. She sat with us for 20 minutes before we started rolling on all of the...
Feel that.
You can feel it.
Yeah, totally.
She was like, I want everyone here to come up with their own thing. I'm going to give you, a little bit of time to figure it out. And then I'm just going to roll cameras and Sophia's going to walk through. And I remember having chills thinking about it. We felt so united.
Because I watched that recently and I
Yeah.
felt that same thing when you walk into the ref
They were
for the
all
first
doing
time.
little things, and it was terrifying. I mean, I truly and we all, when they're also later when I sort of snap, we'd been together for a couple of days at that point, and they were all cheering for me, and it was twisted and demented, and we felt like afterward we were all united, and that's so rare. Yeah. And I think that's a testament to Helen and to Lauren. But yeah, I was thrilled to do that.
Now,
You're amazing.
Even if
You're amazing.
so good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's incredible.
I think it's your Emmy up.
That it is terrifying.
Incredible. There have been comparisons between the Penguin and the Sopranos, and I think it's probably the mother-son relationship. Were you guys kind of cognizant of that sort of parallel? Because look, there are worse things to get compared to than one of the greatest TV shows ever made, The Sopranos.
Yeah.
So were you guys kind of cognizant of that at least in that mother-son relationship?
So obviously he has a relationship. I've not seen this, but I've seen 2 episodes of The Sopranos. I've seen 2 episodes.
Is that true?
Yeah, and I've never seen Breaking Bad. I've not even seen 1 episode
What?
of Breaking Bad. I have a lot of shit to catch up on.
This is when we spoil Colin Farrell.
Sopranos is a very good show.
Yeah,
His
I believe.
mother-
It's the best of all time.
Yeah.
Well, his mother and him have a very difficult
She's toxic,
relationship. It's a
manipulative
little
beyond
different.
belief,
Right, but
fundamentally
she's
abusive
even
under the
more-
banner of love.
Yes.
You sure you haven't seen that?
Well, we know Lauren's seen it.
Yeah, no, I did. I looked back at those. Because she's so amazing in it. But it isn't exactly that.
Yeah.
You know what I looked at that I did just steal and watch often, if we had a couple of weeks off, and I was like, wait, okay, what do we do? That performance in Geraldine Page in Pope of Greenwich Village.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, she just killed it, and it was her son's a cop in that, so he's not, but they are connected up, and there's something about her rage at the world and where she's landed, and she's kind of sending him out as her satellite, and she loves him like crazy. And there is a line that she had in it that I would just look at every once in a while just to remind myself. That was my son was a bar of steel, and he didn't get it from his father.
Thank you.
More on the Penguin and all things DC. Keep it locked to IGN.
I've always known you were capable of more.